Welcome back to the webcast, All Sports One Web, and today we are recapping the first week of the NFL and giving you our week 2 picks. I'm by myself today, but let's get going. Here we go. All right. Welcome back to the webcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today. What a great weekend, not only in college football, but in the NFL for their first week of action. We got kicked off last Thursday with Buffalo taking on the defending Super Bowl champs in the Los Angeles Rams. And then we carried on to 2 overtime games on Sunday. A lot of late field goals, misses, makes, the whole 9 yards. And then that game last night with Russell Wilson traveling back to Seattle to take on his former team. We will get into all of the controversy and decision making at the end of that game as well. But wow, what a weekend. I mean, it's great to have football back, college on Saturday and NFL on Sunday, especially since we were unable to watch the Premier League this past weekend. We also are going to miss a handful of games this upcoming weekend as the the world is in mourning over the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. So many of those games are postponed. We will get more into that and the Champions League that went on today as Lewandowski returned back to Germany to take on Bayern Munich. Tottenham went away for their first game, Sporting Lisbon, and tomorrow's game where Haaland goes back to Germany to see if he can get the win with Manchester City, and Graham Potter will take charge at Stamford Bridge for the first time, in the Champions League for the first time, and as Chelsea manager for the first time all tomorrow evening. So come back and join us tomorrow at 7 p.m. for that coverage. But today is all about the NFL, so let's get into it. We're going to just give you a recap of week 1 action, and then we're going to dive into the picks for week 2. I'm by myself today, so it'll be my picks. But if you want to pick along with us or with me and with us in the future, go ahead and get on to ESPN.com and create an account where you can then do all of your picks straight from there. That is where we are doing our EPL picks, our college football picks, and our NFL picks for the entire season each week. So you can track your ranking along as our ranking, and we can see at the end of the season how we do. So today will be the first time that we do the NFL predictions or NFL pick'em. We don't do week ones. We like to get a good feel of what's going on, and then we'll dive into it. So definitely get in there and get your picks in for this upcoming week so you can be right along with us all the way through. But what a game we had on Thursday. And with all of the hype on Buffalo going into the season, I was very intrigued to see how they could perform. Only 2 times in the last, 20 years have a Super Bowl champion opened up at home and lost going into Thursday night. Buffalo, obviously, with the additions of Von Miller from the Los Angeles Rams, was a huge, huge move in the offseason and showed. I thought Jamison Crowder was also a good pickup for the Buffalo Bills. He was there in the slot for a couple of big receptions throughout that game, but the Rams could not get anything going. And I attribute some of that to the great Buffalo Bills defense that we knew was already good and now is even better with the addition of Von Miller on the defensive line. But also the lack of a run game. Maybe they're missing OBJ and Robert Woods on the offensive side as pass catchers for Matthew Stafford. Cooper Kupp still had himself a day. He always is going to get his numbers. But besides that, they're really, Allen Robinson hasn't been integrated enough. You could see that there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But you put those two things together and you get a complete and utter domination blowout win for Buffalo, 31-10 against the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. And now the AFC is stacked. So, you have to win as many games as you can. especially, out of conference in a way, because those are kind of freebie in a way, in a way for some teams. So if you're, playing a tougher NFC division than another team in the AFC, you still need to keep pace with them. When you got the likes of the Bills, the Chargers, the Chiefs, um, Denver even's going to probably come back up here. You really need to keep pace. Arizona will bounce back, I'm sure. Tennessee will bounce back, I'm sure. The Ravens are going to continue doing what they do. So you need to pick up wins. Now for the Rams, the NFC, their division is tough, don't get me wrong, but the NFC overall a little bit weaker. So I am more comfortable giving them more time to kind of get into things and get Allen Robinson integrated, figure out who they are on the defensive end without the likes of Von Miller, and really get over the Super Bowl hangover. I don't think it'll last long. Get the running game back going again. Cam Akers with 3 carries and 0 yards. I got people texting me, is Cam Akers injured or is he even playing? Because there's no way Cam Akers goes through that entire game and gets 3 attempts, and then on top of that gets 0 yards. So absolutely incredible. But props to the Buffalo Bills. They will be a problem for people this year. That defense is great. That offense can hold the ball and hold the ball and hold the ball. And I think that's one of the greatest assets when you're going against some of the best offense in the league, is your ability to sustain long drives, eat up the clock, keep their defense on the field as much as possible. And then it just helps even more that you got Von Miller getting a rest on the sideline to come in for 5 or 6 plays every quarter, because your offense holds the ball for 10 minutes. Absolutely incredible. And to get a Thursday win, and they play next on Monday, so they get a nice long break before their second game. The Rams will need to bounce back this weekend. Some of the more interesting games I was excited to watch going into the weekend was definitely Saints-Falcons. The Falcons, because it just seemed like, they're going to be rebuilding. They lost Calvin Ridley. They lost, for the suspension for the year. They lost Matt Ryan. He went to the Colts. You got Kyle Pitts, who is just going to be a phenom in the league, but he's entering his second year, and you bring in Marcus Mariota. So, there isn't much expectations there, but what can they do, especially in their home opener? And then this Saints offense under a new head coach, can they take all of these pieces that haven't really played with each other? You got Jameis Winston, who was hurt for a majority of last year. You got Jarvis Landry, who was playing for the Browns last year. You got Chris Olave, who was playing for Ohio State last year. And you got Michael Thomas, who was out the entire year last year, all trying to get integrated in that first week. You saw a very slow, terrible start from the offense. Couldn't get anything going. Jameis Winston did a great job of not giving the ball away, which was fantastic. As he does have a tendency to force things and throw some interceptions. He did better in the beginning of last year before he got injured. 14 touchdowns, I think, to 3 interceptions before he got injured last year. But definitely did good to start this game. And then you saw in the fourth quarter, it clicked and they exploded. I think almost 21 or 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter there against the Falcons, I believe, or 17 in the fourth, at least for the Saints, to end up kicking that last 30-second field goal. 27 for the Saints, 26 for the Falcons, gives that W to Jameis famous Winston as he comes back to take on Tampa Bay in week 2, a matchup that is always great to watch. For some reason, the Saints just know how to play Tampa Bay. We will get into that when we make our picks. Also, we had the monsoon in Chicago, which was awesome. Those videos, those clips, and those pictures from the end of the game with Justin Fields sliding and the rest of the Bears team just sliding in the end zone as the rain is a wall of rain coming down was absolutely fantastic. I hope we can see that clips of that throughout the whole season. Reminds me a little bit of that snow game that happened almost 10 years ago now between Detroit and Philadelphia, where the snow was, about this high, and you got the offensive linemen trying to kick it and people getting tackled and coming up with a face shield of snow. It's just something about football in the absolute extreme of the elements is always just gives it that extra edge, even though we knew that this game was going to be low scoring. Nobody was going to be able to do anything because how can you in weather like that? Absolutely impossible. The Bears, though, coming out with a win, 2 second half touchdowns from Justin Fields. Absolutely fantastic. And a great way to start the season. We will see now with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. It was a monsoon, so you can't really hold anything against anyone in that game. I mean, it's just the conditions make it unplayable. So someone had to win, someone had to lose. And that's just how the cookie crumbles there. But it is interesting to see that San Francisco kept Jimmy G around. Do they have the trust in Trey Lance? How long of a leash will it be? Especially in that tough division. It's very nice to see, most of the teams in that division lose in week 1. So, no harm, no foul, basically reset for week 2. But we'll see how long that leash is for Trey Lance entering his first year as the full starter. The game that was just never ending and filled with excitement throughout was Pittsburgh visiting the Bengals, another team in transition for Pittsburgh. No more Big Ben. First time in forever that he has not been the starting quarterback or on the team for Pittsburgh. It might be better now. He was basically playing on one leg last year. They bring in Mitch Trubisky, see what he can do. And that defense under Mike Tomlin is always that defense. Five takeaways in this game. 5 from Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And you just, every time they got it, the offense just seemed to not be able to get going. You would think if you got 5 turnovers in a game, you're going to be putting up more than 20 points in regulation. I mean, 5 and some of these takeaways around halfway, half field, or even in Bengals territory with the return. And they just could not turn it into touchdowns. That kept Joe Burrow around with that offense. Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, definitely can't be doing that. And they were able to finally get back into the game when they stopped giving the ball away. The Bengals had 2 attempts themselves to win it, including an extra point as time expired to make it 21-20, and it gets blocked by Mika Fitzpatrick, who had an absolute outstanding game. It gets blocked, so now it goes into overtime, 20-20. Bengals get the ball back. They go down the field, and they miss a field goal to win the game. Then Pittsburgh go down the field, and they miss a field goal to win the game. And then Bengals have to punt again, change possessions, and then Pittsburgh get the 4th opportunity for a kicker to win this game. Boswell doesn't miss that much. He already missed once. He does not miss again. And that gives Pittsburgh the victory. My concern is you obviously have the injury to TJ Watt, who was a phenom throughout this game, probably the best player on the field, defensive player of the year with his 22.5 sacks last year. No surprise there that he was so dominant in this one. The Bengals offensive line all offseason were saying it's better. They're going to protect him. They didn't protect him at all. So the Bengals have their own worries. But Pittsburgh losing that kind of star on defense who helped get 5 turnovers, and they had a blocked field extra point at the end of the game, and they still had to win it in overtime. I know it's the defending AFC champions, but they had 5 turnovers. 5. They had a +5 in the overall turnover because Pittsburgh didn't turn the ball over. So how in the world can you allow that and not win comfortably? So, I mean, you're going to play worse teams, but you're also going to play better teams. And without TJ Watt with a torn pectoral muscle, definitely going to be out for some weeks. And when you have a bad record and your star player is out, and you tend to not bring them back in that quickly. So I feel like this could be it's only week 1, but it could be a downward spiral here for Pittsburgh. So we will see how that one goes. But the Bengals, definitely got to get going. I mean, they could have challenged one of those Jamar Chase catches on the sideline there, right? They clocked him out at the 1. His right foot was on the goal line, 2 feet inbounds for sure. The ref clocked him at the half-yard line. And if they would have challenged it, maybe they get a touchdown there. Maybe, instead of settling for a field goal, which they ended up doing, that could have gotten the win there, but they didn't challenge that. So, I mean, the Bengals had a lot of chances to win this game. They should have won this game. And we will just see if they can keep it going. into the season and not have a hangover, Super Bowl hangover. But very interesting. Both the Super Bowl contenders last year, participants, take a L to open up week one. Who did not take an L in probably fantasy or otherwise is Jalen Hurts. 38 points for the Eagles. They racked it up on Detroit. Detroit was able to battle back all the way to a 3-point game. But I'm super excited. The Eagles, you also got Dak Prescott on the Cowboys going down last night in Sunday Night Football. But so the Eagles, this is, in my opinion, even after week one, this is their division to lose. I don't see the Cowboys contending in this. They got offensive problems. Now they have a quarterback injury. Washington is there, but Carson Wentz looked good. He did look good, but can they sustain a full season worth of quality to keep up with the Eagles? I don't know. And so the Giants even got a win as well, which is fantastic. To be honest, the Cowboys are the only team who caught an L this weekend in that division. Who would have thought? The NFC East taking names in week one. The Dolphins just do what they do every single year to the Patriots. The defense looked fantastic. The offense looks like it has some sharpness to it, some scariness to it, the ability to just quick hit you with the long ball. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. That's going to be great to see what they can muster up, but in a tough division with the Bills, we will see where they go. But every year they beat the Patriots in Miami, so mark it down. Another win for Miami over Bill Belichick. That makes it, I think, 5 in a row or something like, I don't know, a lot in a row for Miami over the Patriots in Southern Florida. Baltimore did as expected and just sucked the life out of the Jets. Never really in it, the Jets there. Washington versus the Jags. Again, Carson Wentz looked very good. They got weapons there. I don't know if the quality level is, when you compare it to other teams in the NFC even, I don't know if it's there with your Minnesotas, your Green Bays, your Tampa Bays, your Rams, or, even Arizona. I don't know if the quality throughout is as good or as deep as those guys. So, it's interesting, but they play in the NFC East. So sometimes you only need to get 7 wins to win that division. So we will see how that season plays out. Cleveland travels to Baker Mayfield's new house to take him on in Carolina. And I am proud to say that they leave with a win. The aftermath of that, if Baker would have won that, would have been unbearable. So think everything that they won that game. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? I mean, look at the garbage that they gave Russell returning to Seattle, and Baker's was way more blown up. You get rid of Baker, the guy who won a playoff game for you for the first time in forever, to bring in a guy who had 23 counts of, I don't know, what do you call that? Sexual misconduct in a way against him. He's suspended for 11 games now. And you have to play Jacoby Brissett, who is, one of the best backups in the league, has been for some years. And then go to Carolina, where you just traded that quarterback, and lose would have been terrible. So they pull out the win there. Another late field goal giving Cleveland the win. And then it's just, thankfully they came out with that one. We move on to the first tie of the season. There's always one, maybe two, and that is the Colts versus Houston. Very surprised by this one. Jonathan Taylor still got his numbers, but Houston hung in there. Mills looked pretty good. And they, they get a draw against a team that definitely they had no business even being in the game against. So bravo to Houston. Fun fact of the day. I really would love to know this, if this has ever happened in any season ever, that not a single team in the division won a game. That's awesome and intriguing. So I'm really intrigued to see if anyone has ever, if that's ever happened in history where a division just had no wins. But that happened, it happened this weekend. So we'll see if it happened again. But Colts and Houston take a tie there. The other game besides Saints Falcons that I was really intrigued to see just because of offseason changes and storylines and stuff like that was Green Bay versus Minnesota. And the whole reason you have Davante Adams leaving Green Bay and you have Kevin O'Connell going to Minnesota, bringing that, spread offense, 3 wide receivers wide, kind of offense to Minnesota with the weapons that they have, Dalvin Cook in the backfield, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and the like. How will that go? How will Green Bay adjust their offense? How will Minnesota adjust their offense? And what will it look like? Well, it looked like Green Bay missed Davante Adams. I mean, they had, and Alan Lazard was also hurt, so technically they're missing, and they lost MVS. He's now on the Chiefs. So really, if you go back to last year, they don't have their 3 main wide receivers. Tunyon's still there as tight end, but they missed the 3 wide receivers, and they looked like it. They just couldn't get anything going. Dillon and Jones will be a problem as 2 great pass-catching, bulldozing rock boulders in the backfield. It's going to be great to watch them as a 1-2 punch throughout the season. I do not want to be a defense that sees Aaron Jones walk off just for Dillon to come on in. I mean, geez, oh, Pete's. Wow. So if they can get, some wide receiver, we saw some drop passes. We saw some, that one in the beginning of the game, Aaron Rodgers had like a 70-yard bomb down the sideline to one of the rookies and straight through his hands. You could see the disapproval. But they will get that sorted out. In Minnesota, it helped a little bit with how open Justin Jefferson was for a while there, but wow. That offense just looks like it can hold the ball. I felt the same way about Minnesota as I did about Buffalo. It just seems like they can hold the ball. Buffalo a little bit more so with Josh Allen's running ability, but they just seem like they will hold the ball and they will be hard to get the ball from. And that is so important when you are playing the best of the NFL, because you keep their defense on the field, you keep their offense off the field. And at the end of it, if you score points, then you're just scoring points while they're doing nothing and getting tired. And that's just the best thing you could do against some of the elite teams, especially when it comes to playoff time. A team that's definitely going to be there in the playoffs is Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, even though he had, I think, an average touchdown pass of like 5.5 yards with those 2 little yard flicks, got 5 touchdowns himself. That offense, it just looks more dimensional in a way, even though they lose that over-the-top threat in Tyreek Hill. They have McCole Hardman, who can definitely do that. Probably, not just not at the level that Tyreek Hill can. So I don't know what you want. But they still got Kelsey. They bring in Juju. They bring in MVS, who can also take the top off the defense. And they got Andy Reid and Clyde Edwards-Helaire back there, who can be a catch passing back, adds that same dimension. They can beat you in so many ways. That offense is going to be unstoppable all year. And it's going to come down to, as it does every year, can you put pressure on them and can you limit them? And we will see as the year goes on. Arizona, a favorite for many people to not only make the playoffs, but maybe even the Super Bowl. And they just hit a brick wall. They got absolutely obliterated by the Chiefs at home. Hollywood Brown, I thought, would have had a better performance. Obviously, they got DeAndre Hopkins on suspension for 6 games, so he'll be coming back, but they just couldn't get anything going. Maybe it's the first week, getting into it a little bit, but we will see how that goes as we progress. The third most exciting game for me anyway was Raiders Chargers for the same reason as the other 2. Davante Adams joins old college quarterback and Derek Carr as they take on in Las Vegas, as they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, who added Khalil Mack. Gets a game ball at the end of the game for his performance, because that's just who he is. He is always there. He's always causing problems. And I think one of the best things you can do as a great offensive team, bring in a superstar on defense that has just needs the opportunity to win something and hasn't really had that opportunity. And it just changes your whole defense. And the Chargers look dominant. Davante Adams had a great performance himself, but the Chargers just looked scary. And Them and the Bills, for me, just look complete on both sides of the ball in the AFC. They can beat you in many ways offensively. They can shut you down many ways defensively. And they're just going to cause people problems. And that's why the AFC is so good this year. And it's going to be great to watch. Another thing great to watch is Tom Brady entering his 23rd season in the NFL after his crazy offseason, retiring, coming back, all of the off the field issues, not being in training camp for that long. And you could see it a little bit. But Julio Jones looks like Julio Jones again. Did anyone just check out and forget about that guy? I did. He is a freak. He is incredible. Just down the sideline. He's still quick. He can get up. He can win any 50-50 ball. His hands are fantastic. He can catch it in the dirt. And, that is going to be a great weapon for Tom Brady to go along with Godwin, who was great to see him out there after his injury battles, and Mike Evans as well. Even though they lost Rob Gronkowski, they will be fine. But they kept kicking field goals, Tampa Bay. So this game could have definitely been a lot worse than it was. 4 straight field goals to 12 points for Tampa Bay before they got the touchdown. So definitely need to fix that. Cowboys, I'm sorry about your injury. Wish Dak Prescott a speedy recovery. Your season is over now. I don't know what to tell you about that. You could trade for a quarterback like Jimmy G. I don't think San Francisco is going to let him go because of the fact that I don't believe that they trust Trey Lance that much. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see it. I don't think they do. And I think as you have such a great defense and such a good overall team, that you get a little bit more into the season. If the wins don't start coming, and granted, week 1 was in a monsoon. Okay, we're not really putting anything against him. I just don't think that he's going to be able to string wins together enough for them not to put Jimmy G back in and to trade him. So even to trade him would be even more trusting. And I just don't see that them doing that. So I am sorry. Rest in peace, the Cowboys. So apologize for that. Also, rest in peace, Derrick Henry getting more than 3 yards a carry because, wow, that was rough against the Giants. It just seemed like every highlight was 1 yard, 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards from Derrick Henry. Obviously, Tennessee is going to figure it out, but not having any wide receiver dominance or help is making them more one-dimensional and making it much easier to stop. New York Giants put on a great performance there, getting the win in Tennessee to start the season. Again, the NFC East, Cowboys, the only one taking L this weekend. And that leads us to Monday night's game, Denver, Seattle. Another team like Arizona, but on the AFC side, Denver and Arizona, both teams that people thought with their offseason, with their history, with the team they had in place going into the season, were going to cause people problems. We saw Arizona get absolutely battered by Kansas City, and we saw Denver sputter against Seattle. Now, granted, there's a bunch more storylines on the Seattle-Denver game, obviously with Russ returning to Seattle, all of that fan base that is absolutely incredible, going at him the entire game, booing, all of that. But that coaching decision at the end of the game, 4th and 5, to go for a 64-yard field goal when you had 3 timeouts to start that drive. I mean, you wasted 30 seconds just so you could kick a 64-yard field goal. And you have Russell Wilson. What did you bring him in for? You think if your aspirations are to go to the AFC Championship game and even the Super Bowl with Russell Wilson, and you bring in Russell Wilson to help you get you there, and it is 4th and 5, and you need a field goal, and it is a minute left on the clock, roughly. You use him to get those 5 yards. You have to. You're going to believe that a kicker is going to practically tie the NFL record in a place like Seattle with all of its wind and all of that stuff, cold air, that is a better option than giving the ball to Russell Wilson to get you 5 yards with that offense that you have. I mean, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. So It's week one. We'll see where Denver goes. They're going to be a good team. They got weapons all over the place. Russell Wilson's going to get all of that integrated nicely, I am sure. And they're going to be there or thereabout. But man, very interesting start, and I don't think a very good one for Denver, especially with how good the Chargers and even Las Vegas looked, but the Chargers and the Chiefs in week one. But that's kind of the recap here of week one from us here at the webcast. And so now that we have done that, we will be diving into our picks for week two, which kick off on Thursday, when the Chargers and the Chiefs take the field in Arrowhead, the place where the AFC Championship has been held for the last 3 games. Is this going to be a precursor to the AFC Championship game? We will see. How great is that Charger defense going to be on the road in Arrowhead, the home opener? That stadium is loud. It's going to cause problems for the Chargers offense as well. And I don't know. The beginning of the seasons, Andy Reid is just so phenomenal. I mean, in home opener, and not in home openers, in season openers, he's absolutely incredible. Home openers, still very good. And I am going to have to say this game is going to tell me a lot about the Chargers based on their performance. So can they keep it close? Can they dominate possession, time of possession? Can they keep the ball? And I think this game will go a long way in the playoffs. Based on how this and their next meeting go. It's not only going to have playoff implications because, taking a head-to-head game against your opponent for probably the first seed in the AFC and in the division is incredible. The fact is, most likely one of these teams are going to finish up as a wild card and one's going to be a division winner, which is incredible. Just how stacked this division is. But I'm going to open the season here with a Chiefs victory. With their home opener. The Jets travel to the Browns. Browns, decent performance there against Carolina. The Jets, they're the Jets. I'm sorry to say, I have little to no faith in that team, even with Joe Flacco there. And I will have to go with a Cleveland Browns victory there. Washington versus Detroit. Very interesting game because I kind of keep these two teams together. They're both kind of have been rebuilding in a way, and they got some good pieces in there. Their overall team isn't where it needs to be yet, but they have some good pieces that can hurt you. St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, even Jared Goff on Detroit, Carson Wentz, McLaurin, all those guys, Gibson in Washington. So good pieces, but not, scary quality. Detroit had a tough game against the Eagles. So they get a redemption game here to see if they can pick up a win against an NFC East opponent, where Washington had a great win to start the season. And I'm actually going to pick Detroit here to get their first win of the season and take down Washington. This game is going to be nuts. It always is nuts and never makes any sense. One of the reasons why when I play King of the Hill, I never like to pick teams that are playing each other in the division, despite how lopsided. We got 80% picking Tampa Bay here. And I just don't think it's going to be that much of a blowout. I think this game is going to be a lot closer. I do think New Orleans, their home opener, after coming back in the way they did in the fourth quarter, can rally, take that into this game and get that offense clicking a little bit earlier than, halfway through the third quarter. Tampa Bay's defense, obviously, we saw the damage that they caused against Dallas, even though Dallas's offense looked a little bit anemic there. And this one's tough for me. This is very tough. I think the Saints defense will play better, but the Tampa Bay offense is just so great. I just see that this is going to be a close game. And actually, I'm going to give it to the Saints. I think it'll be very close. Definitely not this 80-20, in my opinion. And I'm going to give it to Jameis Winston making plays late. Yes, Jameis Winston in a matchup with Tom Brady to make plays late. I said it, and I'll say it with chest, because I just think that the weapons that he's got, the way that he's been playing, I think they'll get it done there. at home in their opener. Carolina travels to the G-Men New York Giants for their home opener after the Giants went on and got their first win of the season last week by upsetting Tennessee. And Carolina obviously took the L to Cleveland. As great as that win was for the Giants, I think Carolina will bounce back here and pick up the win. This game is super interesting because no TJ Watt for Pittsburgh, but the Patriots have Mac Jones. I just think that offensively, Patriots don't offer that much, but neither do Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's in the home opener. But I think the loss of TJ Watt is going to cause problems, and Bill Belichick can scheme against that offense pretty well. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, a lot of run heavy here, and I will give the win to the Patriots on the road in Pittsburgh. Indianapolis Colts take on the Jaguars. The Jags seemed to be battling the whole game against Washington and just ended up losing there at the end. They showed some good fight. Interesting performance from Travis Etienne, not being integrated as much. I know he came off of an injury all of last year, but James Robinson still looked pretty good. So we'll see if that gets integrated a little bit more, but I expect the Colts to bounce back against Jacksonville in this week's game. Dolphins travel to Baltimore for Baltimore's home opener after they returned from a victory over the Jets. I think the defense for Baltimore is going to be too much to handle. Miami is going to see a completely different type of offense after going from Mac Jones, the pocket passer, to Lamar Jackson, the run-heavy offensive, beat-you-around Baltimore Ravens offense. And for that reason, I will give the edge to Baltimore in that one. The Rams host the Falcons. Marcus Mariota may cause some problems with his legs in this one, but the Rams at home again after getting a good amount of rest and film review about what went wrong offensively will get it fixed and take out the Falcons this weekend. Seattle, Seattle now traveled to San Francisco for a division game here. Will Trey Lance be able to bounce back after that loss in Chicago with their home opener versus Seattle? And Geno Smith's practically perfect game against Denver. I mean, we got to praise Geno Smith. He's right there in the Jacoby Brissett category for me as just one of the best backups in the league and has been for a couple of years. And he just seems, he'll get a starting opportunity there, here and there, and we'll see what he can do with it. But he definitely got a great start at home. Now he travels to San Francisco. Be very interesting to see how this one shakes out. But I will be going with a San Francisco win in that one. Bengals take on the Cowboys just because of Dak Prescott's injury and the already problems that the Cowboys have had offensively, scoring 3 points against Tampa Bay. I do not see it getting much higher against the Bengals, who will be salty that they lost their first weekend game, and they will bounce back for me this weekend. Now we move to the late, we're still in the late window here as Houston take on Denver. Houston's catching Denver after a bruised ego. Russell Wilson losing away to Seattle, and his return to Seattle is going to return for his home opener. Those fans are going to go crazy, and I think Denver will put it right against Houston. This game is super interesting to me. Arizona versus the Raiders, both teams that we expect to cause problems for teams, especially offensively this year, and could get into the playoffs, and both started off with a loss. So we will see how one of them will bounce back and one of them won't. The Raiders being at home, I think, is going to be the reason that they pick up the win against Arizona and send them to 0-2. The Bears, with a great win against San Francisco in the wall of rain at Soldier Field, now travel to Green Bay, who will take the time to get their offense figured out. Sunday night, under the lights, home opener in Lambeau. Bad time to play Aaron Rodgers off of a loss. Tennessee traveled to Buffalo, which I just, with that defense and the single dimension offense of Tennessee, I just feel like Buffalo will stifle them. And then that offense in Buffalo in their home opener will take care of itself, especially on their long week as they kick off on Monday here. The other Monday game is Minnesota traveling to the Eagles. Both, again, two teams that we expect to get into the playoffs, both starting off with wins last week and looking good doing it. Eagles will open up at home here on Monday as Minnesota travel there. Jalen Hurts is going to cause problems. But I feel like in this high-scoring Monday night game, I will be giving the victory to Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings on this one. So there are our picks for this weekend. Let me submit them here. And there they go off into the world. So go ahead, make your account on ESPN, make your picks with us, NFL picks. Tomorrow we are back with recapping Champions League, all of the stuff that happened today and tomorrow in the Champions League as that goes through week 2 of their group stage play. We will go through all of those, talk to you about the good moments, the bad moments, and do our predictions for the next EPL week, which starts this weekend as teams finally return to play after half of them or all of them were off last week and half of them are off this week. So only a handful of games to pick, but we will be doing that tomorrow at 7 p.m. And Doug will be with you on Friday, 7 p.m. to recap the crazy week in college football. Sun Belt. What a time to be in the Sun Belt. Absolute domination here. Big teams falling, so come and join us, hang out with us Friday 7 p.m. here on the webcast, and that is our recap of week 1 in the NFL and predictions for week 2, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good night.